Hello everyone. Today I want to say about the pictures of Dorian Gray.
And there will be a price. Do you remember when I first came to London?
You have the only two things worth having: looks and youth. The world is yours. I suggest we raise a little hell.
You're perfect.
This is not my true face. I never age. Never scar. What are you? I am what you!
The Picture of Dorian Gray is the first and only novel written by Irish poet and playwright Oscar Wilde. The story can be described as Faustian, as it follows a man who tried the purity of his soul or unending youth. In the novel, Dorian becomes obsessed with the image after posing for a portrait painting. Overwhelmed by the fear that youth and beauty captured in the portrait will fade, Dorian passionately wishes for the pictures to age and for him to remain as he captured. Dorian's wish comes true, but he soon finds that his portrait records each of the sins he commits over time. Ultimately, Dorian is driven
The
to
story
madness
begins
as
on a
he tries
beautiful
to
summer day in
reconcile
19th
the
century
body
Victorian
decay
London.
recorded in his
Basil
portrait.
Howard, a respected and reclusive painter, entertains his aristocratic friend Lord Henry. Lord Henry waited at his home. The two admire a portrait that Basil is working on, and their discussion turns toward the suitor, a handsome and charming young man named Dorian Gray. Lord Henry insists on meeting Basil Muse, but he refuses, hoping to shield the innocent boy from Lord Henry's cynicism. Much to painter's chagrin, Basil's butler announces that Dorian has When Basil shows
arrived
Dorian his
unexpectedly.
completed portrait, Dorian is overcome with horror by his realization that he will not look like he appears in the portrait forever. Influenced by a discussion with Lord Henry, Dorian exclaims that he would give his soul in order for himself to remain young while his picture grows old. Shocked by the young man's reaction, a month later, Dorian visits Lord Henry in order to tell him some news. Dorian has fallen in love with an outstanding actress named Sybil Vane, who performs in Shakespearean plays that are put on by a lower-class theatre troupe. Dorian proposes to an enthusiastic Sybil. The bride's family has their reservations. Sybil's mother is hesitant to allow the daughter to wed an upper-class man because the family is plagued by their own financial issues. Anyone who puts his sister in harm's way. Dorian invites Lord Henry and Basil to watch Sybil performs in Romeo and Juliet. To everyone's surprise, Lord Henry is swiftly judgmental and he mocks the performance unfavorable to his rules, and Lord Henry and Basil live and embrace Dorian alone in this theatre. Following their performance, Dorian confronts Sybil and expresses his disgust. They tells him that she was unable to perform being in love when she feels strongly enamored with Dorian. Dorian reacts to Sybil's compliment rather closely, leaving the theater in a huff. The following day, Lord Henry arrives at Dorian's residence. Dorian tells his friend about his intention to reconcile with his portrait, but Lord Henry informs Dorian that he is too late. Sybil has killed herself with poison following their fight. Lord Henry advised Dorian to maintain a low profile so that he is not suspected in Sybil's death. Basil then visits Dorian and he has to learn that Dorian appears unmoved by Sybil's suicide. Basil notices that the portrait he has painted of Dorian is now covered.
Basil inquires a bit about the portrait, but Dorian finds the question invasive. Dorian decides to lock the covered painting in the attic for the foreseeable future. As the Dorian indulges in a life of excess, he becomes increasingly corrupt and morally bankrupt. The portrait, however, reflects the consequences of his action, growing more grotesque and disfigured as Dorian's soul deteriorates. Dorian's relationship suffered notably with Sybil Vane, a young actress he falls in love with but ultimately mistreats, leading to her tragic demise. Haunted by quiet and realization of his moral decay, Dorian tries to escape and consequences of his action. In a moment desperation that decides to destroy the portrait, hoping to free himself from the burden of his sins. However, in doing so, he ultimately meets his own downfall. The novel concludes with Dorian's death, where he is found old and ugly while the portrait returns to its original beautiful state. The story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of vanity, the pursuit, pleasure, and the disconnect between appearance and reality.
What's your secret?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
How terrifying. What's in there?
Give me the key! I have seen my soul. And there will be a price.